Learn to survive without my support, Amanda yelled, her expression twisted in fury as she ripped my credit card apart and smashed the fragments onto my kitchen counter. I gazed at the shredded plastic, the shiny digits now split into uneven pieces, and a peculiar serenity came over me. 28 years as a parent had shown me when to battle and when to yield. This situation demanded the second option. You have a point, I replied softly, locking eyes with my daughter's enraged stare. My brief reply appeared to unsettle her. She had anticipated sobs, begging, or maybe fury to echo hers. But she received just 2 words of seeming submission. For a short instant, bewilderment crossed her flawless face. A face that mirrored her father's so much it occasionally pained me to see her. Absolutely, I do, she snapped back, flipping her costly streaked locks. I'm tired of you attempting to manipulate me, Mother. You badmouthed Dad my whole childhood. Then you judged my home, my career, my companions. And now you dare request my funds. After all Dad has provided for me, while you've merely instructed arithmetic to strangers' children. Each phrase was crafted to hurt, sharpened through repeated use. I'd encountered versions of this rant numerous times, always with the same altered version of events where Jack emerged as the champion and I as the antagonist. The absurdity could have amused me if it wasn't so agonizing. I only requested to borrow your card temporarily until my coverage approves the advance for my cardiac operation, I reminded her mildly. But you're correct. It was wrong of me to inquire. Cardiac operation? She sneered, forming quotation marks with her fingers. Perfect timing, Mother. Right as Dad faces some money troubles, you abruptly require costly treatments. I placed my hand on the packet of health records between us on the table. The heart scans, the expert meetings, the operation agreement papers, but I didn't trouble to reveal them. Amanda had no interest in proof that challenged her storyline. I realize you're distressed, I responded instead. Do you want a cup of tea before leaving? Heavens, you're unbearable, she shouted, snatching her luxury purse, a present from Dad that I'd really covered last holiday season. This explains why Dad abandoned you. You're distant, scheming. You never got him. Or me. With that final jab, she marched away, banging my entrance door with enough force to shake the pictures on my corridor wall. One dropped, the casing splintering upon impact with the ground. A group photo from Amanda's 7th year, prior to Jack's last infidelity shattering our household. How appropriate. I remained seated by myself at my kitchen counter for a few moments, eyeing the ripped credit card. It was a supplementary card linked to Amanda's profile, a profile I'd silently financed for ages. The humor in her theatrical act didn't escape me. She thought she was severing my access when, in truth, I grabbed my device and launched my finance application. For ages, I'd arranged regular deposits into Amanda's profiles. $1,200 to bridge her upscale residence's rent shortfall. $800 for her vehicle rental, fluctuating sums for her charge accounts as they neared their caps. All handled quietly, letting her uphold the pretense of economic self-reliance, or that Jack was her patron. Jack, my former spouse, hadn't supplied a substantial cent to his child's rearing since she turned 12. His support payments had failed so consistently that my attorney finally suggested ceasing the chase. His assurances of university fees had vanished, forcing me to secure an extra position to fund Amanda's schooling. Yet in Amanda's view, he stayed the bountiful, encouraging guardian while I was the aloof, restrictive one. I'd permitted this fabrication to endure, in part because I never wished to weigh Amanda down with the harsh facts, and in part because I dreaded eroding our fragile bond. If she discovered her adored dad had basically deserted his monetary duties, leaving her mom to handle everything, would she despise him or just resent me further for disclosing it? I'd never find out at this point. After 24 years of guarding her from this truth, I was too drained to persist. My heart specialist had been explicit. Lower tension, concentrate on mending, gear up for recuperation. The procedure set for the following Tuesday would fix my mitral valve, but healing would require months. I had to focus on my well-being now, an aspect I'd ignored for years while aiding others. My digit lingered above the finance app. One after another, I terminated each regular deposit to Amanda's profiles. Then, I dialed my financial institution's support line. I'd like to detach myself as cosigner from my daughter's charge account, I informed the agent. Profile number 4728-915-600334782. Certainly, Ms. Wilson. I must note that this could influence the profile's borrowing cap and condition, since your earnings and borrowing rating have contributed to the existing cap. I get it, I answered. Go ahead with the detachment. Following the required confirmation, the agent verified, you've been detached as cosigner right away. Can I assist with anything further today? No, that's everything. Thanks. I concluded the conversation and leaned back, sensing an odd lightness amid the soreness in my torso, both sentimental and bodily. For the initial time in years, I was placing my own economic stability above Amanda's indulgences. The over $2,000 monthly I'd directed her way would stay in my profile now, assisting with my health expenses and healing charges. My device buzzed with a message from Jack, naturally. Amanda invariably contacted him right after our disputes. Marjorie, heard you're bothering Amanda for cash. Cheap tactic. Back off. I didn't trouble to reply. In several days, they'd both uncover the reality concealed obviously for years. The idea gave me no joy, merely a tired acceptance. Standing gradually, I retrieved the image that had tumbled when Amanda slammed the door. Under the fractured glass, our earlier versions grinned at the lens. Amanda perched on Jack's knee, me positioned a bit aside, already fading in my daughter's sentimental world. Even back then, I set the damaged casing face down in a cabinet. Certain items were preferable hidden. Collecting my health papers, I examined my pre-operation list. Without Amanda's card, I'd have to tap my modest reserve fund to handle the prompt hospital contributions. It would be close, but doable. After years of extending funds to meet both my requirements and Amanda's, managing solely my own costs felt nearly lavish. As I got ready for sleep that evening, I sensed the burden of my choice. The next day, Amanda would learn what existing without my support really entailed. Though not as she envisioned, the disclosure would probably ruin what was left of our bond. But maybe in time, it could open room for something truer to develop instead. Regardless, I'd at last grasped the concept I'd attempted to impart to Amanda for ages. Economic limits aren't solely about currency. They're about dignity, truth, and finally, self-protection. As I slipped into slumber, I pondered her expression when she attempted to charge her card the following day. I awoke the next dawn to my device vibrating furiously. 6 unanswered calls from Amanda in the last hour. 17 messages escalating in desperation and blame. I placed the device away and consumed my morning cardiac remedy, adhering to my physician's advice to reduce strain prior to the operation. The humor didn't escape me that Amanda's economic realization was happening exactly when I needed to prioritize my wellness. I prepared a basic meal of porridge topped with cut bananas, the luxury of fresh fruit now an indulgence I had to skip, and positioned myself near my kitchen window, observing the area awaken. At 8:47 a.m., right as the financial institution began operations, my device rang once more. Amanda. I inhaled deeply and picked up. What on earth have you done? Her tone was piercing, fear clear under the outrage. Hello, Amanda, I answered serenely. My card got rejected. Rejected at Nordstrom. The supervisor knew me. It was mortifying. The phrases spilled out in a surge of resentment. Then I contacted the institution, and they said you'd detached yourself as cosigner, and all those deposits halted, and my profile is in the red. And what have you done? I took a drink from my tea before replying. I followed your exact instructions. I'm adapting to exist without your funds. What do you mean? It's my funds, my profile. Is it? I inquired softly. Examine your transaction log, Amanda. Not only the debits, but the credits. Scroll back as much as possible. Observe the source of the money over these years. Quiet on the connection. I could detect her rapid, light breaths and the soft tapping indicating she was checking her finance app during our talk. This is confusing, she eventually uttered, her tone diminished. There are credits from your profile monthly for ages. Yes, but Dad claimed he was assisting with the residence and the vehicle. He claimed, "Your dad hasn't added meaningfully to your economic aid since you were 12, Amanda," I stated mildly. "The support payments ceased arriving. The university savings he vowed never appeared. Every item he said he provided you, from your 16th birthday vehicle to last year's holiday purse, originated from my profile." "That's not." "He wouldn't." Her tone broke. I could sense the reality she'd built starting to crack around her. Why would he deceive? Why would I have deceived? I responded, "What benefit would I have from concealing my economic aid all these years? From letting you think it originated from him?" Further quiet, then with fresh fury. "You're attempting to pit me against Dad. You've always envied our connection. This is control." I exhaled. "Contact him, Amanda. Inquire about his latest insolvency submission. Ask where he's residing now that his apartment has been seized. Ask him straight if he's been economically aiding you, and observe his expression when he responds." "I will," she retorted sharply. "And then I'll reveal all your falsehoods." The conversation cut off suddenly. I placed my device down and looked out the window. Henderson from adjacent was strolling her corgi, pausing to converse with the youthful pair who'd lately settled across the road. Ordinary existence proceeding everywhere while my own meticulously built realm of sacrifice and concealment crumbled. I passed the day arranging my health papers and readying my residence for after-operation healing. The home nurse had advised clearing routes for simpler movement, gathering vital items, and prepping dishes that could be quickly warmed. Basic duties that grounded me in my circumstances' truth while I awaited the unavoidable consequences. It arrived at 2:36 p.m. when my doorbell sounded. I opened it to discover Amanda there, her impeccable cosmetics smeared with tears. Her assured stance collapsed into something tinier and more fragile than I'd witnessed in ages. "He confessed it all," she uttered, her tone empty. After I presented him the transaction details, he couldn't refute it any longer. "He's crashing on his buddy's sofa. He's penniless," he admitted. She gulped. "He admitted you've been concealing for him for years because you didn't want me to realize what a loser he was." I moved aside to allow her entry. She stepped by me into the lounge, but stayed upright, too restless to settle. "Why?" she insisted, pivoting to confront me. "Why would you do that? Why would you allow me to think he was aiding me when it was you the whole time? Why would you permit me to behave so awfully while believing he was my rescuer?" I eased cautiously into my easy chair, abruptly sensing every bit of my 62 years. "When you were 8 and your dad departed, you were crushed. You worshipped him. When his weekend trips began happening less often, when his vows were shattered repeatedly, I saw you struggling to comprehend it. Kids need to trust in their parents, Amanda. So, you deceived me. For decades. I safeguarded you," I amended gently. "At first. Then afterward, when you were mature enough to grasp, the habit was established. You'd portrayed me as the foe in your tale, the domineering mom, the one who chased your ideal dad away. Revealing the facts then would have appeared like another assault on him." Amanda walked back and forth, dragging her fingers through her hair in a motion so similar to Jack's that it caused my chest to throb. "So all these years when I believed I was economically self-sufficient or that Dad was assisting me, I was depositing funds to cover the difference between your earnings and your outlays," I verified. "Your residence costs $1,200 more monthly than you can manage on your pay. Your vehicle rental is $800 each month. Your charge accounts often near their maximums." She halted her steps, gazing at me with a blend of terror and emerging awareness. "And now you've ended all of it." "Yes, due to what I stated yesterday. Because I shredded your card and instructed you to survive without my support. In part, I conceded, but also because I can't sustain 2 homes any longer. My health costs. Your cardiac operation," she cut in, her complexion paling. "That's genuine. Not merely, not a ploy." In reply, I passed her the packet of health records I'd attempted to display yesterday. She dropped onto the couch, opening it with shaky fingers. "Mitral valve fix," she recited. "Tuesday, that's 5 days away." She glanced up, her eyes broad. "And I charged you with inventing it. I declined to allow you to charge my card for your health costs while you've been funding my way of life for years. Your card that I fund, I amended quietly. But yes. Amanda shut the packet, her look changing as the complete ramifications of her economic position struck her. I can't manage my residence without your aid or my vehicle. My charge accounts are at capacity. Anxiety crept into her tone. What will I do? I'd posed the identical query to myself innumerable times during the years amid my separation. When Jack's aid ceased, when university bills came. Each instance, the response had been identical. Solve it. Reduce. Labor more. Give up. You'll do what I've done for the last 24 years, I informed her. You'll create a spending plan based on your real earnings. You'll separate necessities from desires. You'll make tough decisions about what matters most. But my rental agreement might need breaking. I concluded for her. There are fees, yes, but existing above your capacity has its own price, as you're learning. She appeared so bewildered, so burdened that for an instant I nearly softened. The parental urge to save her, to ease her journey, the same urge that had guided me to this unmaintainable setup, surged inside me. But I recalled my heart specialist's advice. Your heart can't handle this degree of pressure anymore, Marjorie. You must focus on your wellness now, or you won't survive for anyone. So rather than providing economic rescue, I grabbed my computer. Let's build a practical spending plan together. See your true position. Amanda gazed at me for an extended moment, then agreed, drying her tears with her hands reverse. All right, she uttered softly. Show me. For 3 hours, Amanda and I examined her economic truth. I launched Excel and formed a basic chart, the identical kind I'd employed to handle my own unstable finances post-Jack. 2 sections, inflows and outflows. Harsh, relentless, numerical. Your monthly net income is $4,250, I stated, inputting the amount she hesitantly shared. Now let's itemize each fixed cost individually. We included them. Residence rent $3,200, vehicle rental $800, coverage $250, mobile $120, services roughly $200. Lowest charge account payments presently $430 over 3 cards, online entertainment $75, fitness center fee $185, and her regular beauty visit $320. That's $5,580, Amanda murmured, eyeing the sum. Monthly before I purchase groceries or outfits or socialize with pals. Yes, I affirmed. You're running at a monthly shortfall of $1,330 before any optional outlays. But how? I've been coping okay. You haven't been coping whatsoever, I amended mildly. I've been bridging the shortfall, plus many of your charged debits when they neared the limit. The presents from your dad were really from me. She reclined on the couch, astonished. So, monthly I've been expending around, from my records, about $6,800 to $7,200 overall. Nearly double my earnings, she murmured. For years. I agreed. And that excludes the initial payment for your residence or the starting deposit on your vehicle rental. Those were bigger single deposits. Amanda stayed quiet for an extended moment, her gaze locked on the chart's merciless arithmetic. I could nearly witness her internally revising the story of her grown-up existence, the myth of economic autonomy crumbling against these basic figures. Why didn't you inform me? She inquired at last, looking up. Why permit me to exist so far above my capacity? The inquiry was valid, though it overlooked her prior opposition to any economic guidance I'd tried to give over the years. Still, I owed her truthfulness now. It began during your university time, I clarified. Jack had vowed to handle your fees, but when it arrived, he had justifications. Company reversals, short-term money flow issues. I drank from my tea, which had cooled. You were so pleased with him for funding your education. I couldn't stand to remove that from you, particularly when you were succeeding in studies. Then post-graduation, when you secured your advertising position, I demanded the fancy downtown residence, she remembered, grimacing. You warned against it, said it was too pricey for an entry-level role. You mentioned Dad believed it was a solid commitment to your career appearance, I went on. That he'd assist with the deposit. When no funds came from him, I deposited the money and allowed you to think it was from him. It turned into a routine. Amanda dragged her fingers through her hair once more. That motion so like her dad's. I was horrible to you, she uttered quietly. Whenever you hinted I was overspending, I'd fling it back that Dad grasped the value of image, of enjoying life, that your average outlook was why he departed. The familiar pain surfaced briefly. Yes, and during that period he was adding nothing while you were taking additional work and residing in this small home to finance my way of life. Her tone faltered. What's the matter with me? How could I have been so unaware? You were young when the split occurred, I stated. Kids form stories that shield them from hurtful realities. You required your dad to be flawless because the option, that he shirked his duties to you, was too agonizing to face. I'm not young anymore, she rebutted. I'm 36 and I've been awful to the one parent who truly gave for me. Her self-criticism was tough to observe but essential. Years of economic enabling had added to her present dilemma. We both shared blame. She for deliberate ignorance, me for permitting it to go on. What occurs next? She asked, pointing at the chart. I can't sustain my existence. No, you can't, I concurred. Not in its present form. You have decisions to make. What decisions? The numbers don't add up. The numbers always add up, Amanda. That's what I've tried to convey. When outlays surpass inflows, you have two choices. Boost inflows or cut outlays. I modified the chart, adding a fresh section called Adjusted Budget. Your residence rental is month by month now, right? When she agreed, I proceeded. There are good one-bedrooms in Westbrook for $1,600. That's half your current rent. Westbrook is 30 minutes from the city center, she objected faintly. Yes, many commute longer for reasonable housing, I answered steadily. Your vehicle rental has 9 months left. That's harder to fix right away, but when it concludes, purchasing a dependable pre-owned car would lower your monthly cost greatly. One after another, we addressed her outlays, identifying areas to trim, simplifying her mobile package, removing duplicate online services, swapping the premium fitness center for the local rec facility, extending her beauty visits to every 8 weeks rather than 4. This seems like penalty, she uttered, eyeing the updated numbers. It's not penalty, Amanda. It's truth. The truth I've been protecting you from. Most folks exist within their capacity because they lack options. I provided you the myth of larger capacity than you possessed, and that was my error. She stayed silent for a bit. What about your operation? How are you covering that? I paused, then chose full truthfulness was the sole route ahead with difficulty. My coverage handles 80% after my $2,500 out of pocket. The treatment is around $40,000. So my share is about $10,000 plus the out-of-pocket. I've been setting aside for this, but it will drain most of my reserve fund. And the healing, the heart doctor noted 3 months before full work return. I have accumulated leave and can do restricted tutoring from home after the initial month. It will be tight. I didn't note that the funds I'd routed to her would have eased this phase considerably. Amanda eyed the chart, then my health papers packet, her look altering as some inner computation finished. I want to assist, she declared abruptly. Amanda, no. Hear me. This matters, she straightened, holding my gaze straight. I've been receiving from you for years without realizing. Now you require aid. And she motioned weakly at the economic proof of her position. I have 0 to offer. Worse than 0, I have obligations and duties I can't fulfill alone. I began to comfort her. But she proceeded, but I have another thing to provide. I've been investigating since yesterday. Your operation is Tuesday, and you'll need assistance in healing. The home nurse is only brief weekly. You need a person present. Her tone strengthened, more determined. I'm terminating my residence today. I'm relocating here to aid your healing. The statement surprised me totally. Amanda, that's unnecessary. It is completely necessary, she persisted. Not only for you, for me as well. I must confront truth. And part of that truth is I can't manage my residence. Relocating here briefly resolves 2 issues. You receive after-operation attention, and I gain space to reduce debt and accumulate for a more practical spot. I examined my daughter's expression, noticing resolve supplant the astonishment and self-sorrow from before. For the initial time in our grown-up bond, She was proposing a fix that recognized truth instead of anticipating truth to adjust to her wishes. You haven't resided at home since university, I reminded her. It would be a major change for us both. I know. She grinned wryly. Particularly for you managing me amid your healing. But I'm not requesting, Mom. I'm informing you what's occurring. For once in my existence, I'm going to rise and support you the way you've constantly supported me. The humor didn't escape me that my economic dilemma had generated the first chance for my daughter to show true altruism. Maybe there was value to salvage from this circumstance after all. Okay, I consented warily. A short-term setup while I heal and you reorder your finances. She agreed, then glanced back at the chart. So, regarding these charge accounts. The weekend prior to my operation flew by in a flurry of tasks. Amanda terminated her residence, bargaining an early end that, though pricey, was cheaper than ongoing payments she couldn't handle. She reached my home Sunday dawn with her vital items stuffed into her premium SUV, appearing both resolute and a bit dazed. I abandoned most furnishings in the residence, she clarified as we hauled boxes into her former room. The building supervisor consented to sell them on commission to balance part of the rental end charge. That was clever, I remarked, truly amazed. The Amanda from last week would have anticipated another person, probably me, to resolve this issue for her. She shrugged. Turns out when you share the facts with folks, that you've been existing over your limit and must adjust, they're occasionally open to cooperating. A wry grin appeared on her face, though I did endure a talk from the supervisor on money management that echoed suspiciously like stuff you've said for ages. We spent the day reorganizing my simple home to fit her return. The room she'd occupied during high school had turned into my workspace and teaching area, but we rearranged to make it work for both. I observed as Amanda faced the tangible proof of her reduction, placing high-end garments in a wardrobe a fourth the size of her prior one, organizing fancy skincare on a plain wood chest rather than her tailored bath counter. I can't believe I'm here again, she whispered, settling on the single bed from her teen years. I was so eager to flee it, to possess a stylish grown-up existence like Dad's. I joined her, feeling the bed sink under our joint mass. This home protected us through tough times, I uttered. It's not lavish, but it's owned outright. No loan equals liberation from a big economic load. Another concept I'm grasping belatedly, she exhaled. My residence was gorgeous, but it was an economic trap. I labored to fund it, then was too fatigued to enjoy it mostly. I tapped her knee, detecting genuine comprehension in her words for maybe the first time. It's never belated to grasp, Amanda. I'm still grasping at 62. Later that night, as I examined my pre-operation directions at the kitchen counter, Amanda carried in a pile of letters and placed them in front of me. What's this? I inquired. Every charge statement I located, she answered, seating across from me. I need your aid comprehending the real harm. Together, we reviewed them systematically. 3 main charge cards, all almost at limit, plus retail cards for her preferred shops. The total was astounding, $27,500 in cycling debt, accumulating interest at rates from 18% to 24.99%. I've been covering just the lows, she confessed. Occasionally not even those. When funds were short, that's when you'd intervene with a deposit that I believed was. Well, I invented various reasons at various times. A work reward, a present from Dad, cash from a fictional savings profile. The interest is devouring you, I noted, figuring swiftly. You're paying over $500 monthly in interest alone, without reducing the base. Amanda agreed, her look stern but firm. I contacted all the card firms today. I've shut every profile except my longest visa, which I'm retaining for crises. They're cooperating on payback schedules, but it'll still require years. I was truly astonished by this forward-thinking method. That's a major move. I also talked with HR at my job about extra duties, she went on. There's an online advertising certification they'll partly cover. It could lead to advancement in 6 months. You've been active, I commented, examining her face. The privileged, guarded woman who'd shredded my credit card in rage mere days before appeared changed by the reality jolt of her economic state. She glanced down, toying with a credit statement's etch. I've had plenty of time to reflect since Thursday. About currency, yes, but also about habits, how I've been mimicking Dad's money style, upholding images no matter the price, evading truth until it implodes. I stayed quiet, permitting her this instance of realization without disruption. He contacted me yesterday, she proceeded. After I informed him I was relocating with you, he attempted to dissuade me. Said I was reducing my standard unnecessarily, that something would emerge economically as it always does. And what did you respond? I inquired cautiously. A spark of her former intensity surfaced. I informed him nothing emerges magically. That what really occurred was you silently bridging his failed vows and my overindulgences for years. That I'd prefer to exist within my limit than perpetuate the loop of economic dream he instilled in me. My torso constricted with feeling unrelated to my heart issue. That must have been a tough discussion. He didn't accept it gracefully, she admitted. Said I was becoming a miser like you. As if being money-wise is a slur. She shook her head. I used to believe his appeal and grand visions made him unique. Now I recognize he was simply reckless and I was on the same track. This degree of self-insight from my daughter was unmatched. For years, Jack had been the infallible ideal dad in her thoughts. My mild efforts to insert economic truth had been seen as resentment or envy. Now, faced with the numerical proof of her state, she was reevaluating not only her own selections, but the parental impact that had formed them. Both routes have results, I uttered cautiously. Existing over your limit builds a fake sense of wealth that ultimately falls apart. But being overly careful can mean overlooking chances or pleasures en route. The task is discovering equilibrium. Amanda surveyed my simple kitchen with fresh perspective. All these years, I thought you resided this way because you couldn't manage better. I never thought you might be selecting economic safety over display. A cleared home and reserve fund don't pose well for online posts, I noted with a tiny grin, but they aid my rest at night. We passed the rest of the night readying the home for my after-operation requirements, shifting furnishings to form open paths, and establishing a short-term rest spot downstairs so I wouldn't need to climb steps in early healing. As we collaborated, I detected subtle changes in our interaction. Amanda verifying if activities were too demanding for me. Acting without prompt. Handling issues considerately rather than demanding instant fixes. Minor shifts that hinted at bigger changes in progress. That evening, as I readied for sleep, Amanda tapped lightly on my bedroom entrance. Need anything before resting? She inquired. Pain relief? Water? I learned that hydration pre-operation is key. I'm okay, thank you, I answered, moved by her worry, just a little nervous about Tuesday. She paused in the entry. I contacted the facility today to verify I'm on your permitted guest list and to check the operation timeline. I'll be present throughout. You don't have to skip work. I've already set up leave, she cut in resolutely. 3 days this week, plus I'll operate remotely afterward as required during your early healing. The Amanda from last week would never have given up work hours and the career image she nurtured so meticulously for another's requirements. This minor yet meaningful change suggested a reordering of focuses that inspired hope. Thank you, I uttered plainly. She agreed, then added gently. I've been awful to you for so long, Mom. I can't alter that instantly, but I can support you now. Rest well. We have a major day Tuesday. As she shut my door, I reclined contemplating the surprising direction our bond had taken. My heart issue, something I'd feared sharing with Amanda, had become the trigger for overdue truths and readjustments. Maybe there was a numerical symmetry to it after all, as my bodily heart required fix. Our sentimental link was finally getting the care it had needed for years. Perhaps this too was a type of mending, learning to accept after years of providing. My economic reserves might be drained from years of backing Amanda's extravagances, but we were constructing a different sort of riches now, one rooted in shared aid and truth rather than deception and facilitation. It was a more even formula, and as any arithmetician knows, evenness is vital for enduring steadiness. 6 weeks into my healing, Dr. Chin declared my advancement superb during a checkup. The cut was mending neatly. My vitality was rising, and the fixed valve was operating correctly per my latest heart scan. You can slowly ramp up your actions, he recommended. Brief outdoor strolls, light home chores. Pay attention to your body. Weariness and slight unease are standard, but acute ache or shortness of breath indicates you're overdoing it. Amanda, who'd joined me for every health visit, jotted detailed notes on her device. When can she restart teaching? She inquired. Restricted time, naturally. I'd say 2 more weeks for face-to-face meetings if progress holds, Dr. Chen answered. Begin with 1 or 2 pupils, limit meetings under 60 minutes, and monitor your response. This was encouraging information. Beyond the economic need to resume labor, I longed for my pupils and the intellectual spark of instructing. The prolonged healing time had pressured my restricted savings. Even with the cash I'd allocated just for this. As we traveled home, Amanda was unusually silent, her mind evidently elsewhere despite the favorable health news. Something bothering you? I asked. She wavered, then sighed. The money advisor rang while you were dressing at the physician's. I didn't want to bring it up until post-appointment. My gut tightened. Soon after my operation, Amanda had pursued assistance from a charitable credit guidance group, aiming to form an organized strategy for tackling her large debt. The advisor had been aiding her bargain with lenders and form a practical payback approach. What did she state? She's been examining my full economic position, including the cash you deposited to my profiles over the years. Amanda kept her focus on the path, her grip tightening a bit on the wheel. Per her figures, you've provided me roughly $142,000 since university graduation, excluding fees and living costs in school. The exact amount stunned me. I'd never sum the whole, concentrating instead on each deposit as necessary. Hearing the total sum, almost half my humble home's worth, was eye-opening. That's greater than I thought, I confessed. It's greater than we both thought, she concurred softly. She proposed I view it as a borrowing rather than a present and set a payback schedule with my other obligations. I started to protest, but Amanda went on. I concur with her. I've been pondering this for weeks. Really, that cash was intended for your later years, Mom, your safety. Instead, it supported my fake way of life while you kept working far beyond retirement age. We reached home, but stayed in the vehicle as she completed her idea. I want to reimburse you, she asserted resolutely. Not entirely immediately, clearly. That's unfeasible with my present finances, but gradually with an organized strategy, like my other obligations. Amanda, that's unnecessary. It is completely necessary, she interjected, facing me fully. This isn't only about currency. It's about responsibility. For years, I've accused you of being domineering or cheap while privately gaining from your kindness. I've disliked your money guidance while relying on your money aid. The mental conflict was, well, it was a kind of self-trickery I'm not proud of. Her realization surprised me. This depth of awareness marked notable sentimental development. I value the intent, I uttered cautiously. But I never saw those deposits as borrowings. They were presents, however mistaken my method might have been. That's the issue, she rebutted. They were presents I didn't merit, value, or even recognize. Labeling them presents excuses me too readily. She inhaled deeply. I need to correct this, Mom. Not just for your economic safety, but for my own honor. I pondered her stance as we entered, and I settled into my lounger. The facility bed had been sent back last week, another indicator of advancement. Amanda's resolve to reimburse me wasn't merely about the currency, but about creating a better habit in our bond and her money handling. If this matters to you, I uttered at last, then I won't oppose. But I want fair conditions that won't cause difficulty for you while you're also handling your charge debt. Amanda agreed, eased by my approval. The advisor proposed a symbolic payment initially, perhaps $100 monthly, with rises as my economic state betters. She also suggested we document it with a basic written pact, not enforceable legally, but as an emblematic pledge. That appears sensible. She grinned hesitantly. There's another item. In examining my expenditure patterns, she spotted something curious. My most lavish spending frequently matched visits or calls with Dad. This trend didn't astonish me. Jack had always substituted material excess for sentimental ties. Even in our union, his reaction to any dispute or letdown was to purchase something, a conduct Amanda had seen and adopted young. She proposed I might gain from discussing with someone about my bond with him, Amanda proceeded. A counselor focused on family interactions. She says money behaviors often connect to deeper sentimental habits. That sounds perceptive, I answered cautiously, not wanting to appear overly keen about a possible reevaluation of her bond with Jack. Amanda agreed, appearing both anxious and resolute. I've already booked a starting session for next week. The revelation astonished me. Amanda had always dismissed any therapy idea, seeing it as admitting flaw or defeat. That she'd pursued this alone marked a major change in her self-view. I'm proud of you, I uttered plainly. She appeared surprised, then delighted by the direct commendation. I'm a tempting mom. I know 6 weeks of improved choices doesn't wipe out years of selfish conduct, but I want to improve. Change isn't about wiping the history, I informed her. It's about building a different tomorrow. Our talk was disrupted by the doorbell. Susan arriving with supplies she'd collected for us. As Amanda went to aid her unpack the vehicle, I thought on the surprising path we'd followed since my heart diagnosis. The bodily healing was advancing per health predictions. But the sentimental and relational mending had followed a path no heart doctor could have foreseen. Later that night, as Amanda made dinner, basic roasted poultry and veggies, a distant cry from the costly delivery that had been her routine, I overheard her device talk with a charge firm. Her manner was courteous, but steadfast as she bargained terms, neither privileged nor guarded as she recognized her duty while pushing for doable terms. Thanks for cooperating on this, she wrapped up. I get it'll take time to restore my borrowing score, but I'm dedicated to fulfilling this pact. As she finished the call and came back to the kitchen, I acted engrossed in my reading, not wishing to shame her by admitting I'd listened. But inwardly, I wondered at the development clear in that basic exchange. The daughter who'd once shredded my credit card in entitled fury was now systematically tackling her economic duties with maturity and vision. Healing, it appeared, arrived in various shapes. Some with surgical cuts and heart rehab, others with charts and tough talks. Both demanded patience, steadiness, and the readiness to confront uneasy truths. My heart, both the bodily part and the sentimental hub of my essence, was mending in ways I hadn't ventured to expect when this trip started. The ache of both healings was genuine, but so was the assurance of renewed vigor and purpose that awaited beyond this hard journey. 3 months post-operation, existence had found a fresh pattern. I'd restarted teaching on a restricted timetable, beginning with merely 2 pupils and slowly including more as my endurance grew. Amanda kept working remotely most days, though she now attended her workplace downtown twice weekly. Our living together had discovered its evenness, not without periodic tension, but with increasing shared esteem that had been missing in our prior bond. On a cool October dawn, Amanda declared she'd be away for the day. I've arranged a meal with Dad, she clarified, a hint of strain in her tone. We need to discuss certain matters. Naturally, I answered, aiming to seem impartial despite my worry. Her counseling meetings over the past 2 months had centered strongly on her bond with Jack, dissecting the habits of sentimental control and money recklessness she'd absorbed from him. This meal marked her initial effort to set better limits personally rather than merely via device. I'm not anticipating wonders, she added, evidently sensing my concern. Dr. Levine and I have talked about practical results. This is about clearness, not clash. I agreed, impressed by her balanced method. You understand yourself better now. That alters any hard discussion. After she departed, I felt uneasy, unable to concentrate on plans for upcoming teaching meetings. My worry wasn't that Amanda would revert to old habits. She displayed remarkable reliability in her fresh economic and sentimental awareness. Instead, I fretted about Jack's effect on her developing assurance. He had always excelled at eroding any view that opposed his self-serving stories. To divert myself, I chose to organize some documents that had piled up during my healing. Among the health reports and coverage letters, I discovered an envelope I didn't know, addressed to Amanda but sent to our home, likely a report from one of her lenders not yet updated with her address shift. I placed it aside for her later, then kept sorting the papers until my vitality waned and I required rest. My healing was advancing nicely, but tiredness still struck unexpectedly, a reminder of the severe injury my body had endured. Amanda came back mid-afternoon, her look an intricate mix of feelings I couldn't instantly interpret. "How was the meal?" I inquired warily. She placed her bag down purposefully, as if gaining time to arrange her ideas. "Instructive," she finally answered. Dad was precisely as I predicted and totally unexpected simultaneously. I paused, letting her handle at her pace. He attempted all the typical strategies: allure, diversion, downplaying my worries. But when he saw I wasn't reacting as before, he changed to something fresh. She dropped onto the couch next to me. He began weeping. Mom, genuine weeping, said his existence had collapsed and he required my aid. A chill formed in my gut. Jack's controls usually intensified when his first methods failed, progressing through a foreseeable sequence: allure, remorse, rage, and lastly, when nothing worked, fragility, typically staged rather than real. "What sort of aid?" I asked cautiously. "Economic, obviously." Amanda's chuckle lacked amusement. "He's getting kicked out of his buddy's spot. Needs initial and final month's rent plus deposit for a place. Around $4,000 altogether." "And what did you reply?" She held my gaze directly. I replied no. The plain declaration lingered between us, marking a major change in Amanda's bond with her dad. For her whole adult existence, she'd reacted to Jack's money crises by trying to assist directly when possible or feeling remorseful when not. "That must have been hard," I noted. "It was," she conceded, "particularly when he wept more and said I was forsaking him like all others." But then something odd occurred. She leaned ahead, her look focused. I experienced this instant of total clearness. "I recalled uttering nearly the identical phrases to you when you requested to use my charge card for your health costs." The similarity was revealing. I stayed quiet, feeling she needed to process this awareness without my contribution. I informed him I couldn't assist because I was managing my own economic healing, she proceeded. That I was laboring to mend the harm from years of existing over my limit. And then, this is the part one still can't accept, I proposed he reach a credit guidance service and provided him the details for the charity that's aiding me. "How did he react?" I inquired, though I could readily picture Jack's response to such useful guidance. "He became furious, said I'd grown cold like you." She shook her head. "That's when I understood. Whenever either of us behaves responsibly with currency, he labels us cold or rigid or boring. He's trained us to link money responsibility with bad character features." This realization, one I'd grasped for years but never conveyed effectively to Amanda, now stemmed from her own view. The strength of that immediate awareness far surpassed anything I could have shared. "It's a control tactic," I affirmed softly. "One he's used effectively for decades." "On us both," she concurred. "But it doesn't succeed anymore. At least not on me." She stopped, then added, "Oh, I nearly overlooked. Did any post arrive for me today?" I fetched the envelope I'd placed aside before. "Just this, likely a report from one of your lenders." Amanda inspected the envelope, her forehead creasing. "It's from Midwest Financial Services. I don't hold any profiles with them." She opened it cautiously, unfolding the note within. As she scanned, her look moved from puzzlement to incredulity. "Mom," she started, then halted, her tone faltering. "You need to view this." The note was a reply to a borrowing request supposedly filed in Amanda's name 3 weeks prior. A request for $25,000 that had been refused due to inadequate borrowing. What drew my notice, though, was the copied signature at the application form's base included with the denial note. It was Amanda's signature, or rather a fair copy that wouldn't alert someone unfamiliar with her real writing. But having reviewed her assignments for years and gotten greeting cards and messages throughout her life, I knew instantly it wasn't genuine. "I never filed for this borrowing," Amanda declared, her tone taut with restrained fury. "Never even known of this firm. Could it be identity fraud?" I proposed, though a nauseating doubt was already shaping. Amanda was quiet for a long instant, staring at the signature. "The meal today wasn't random," she eventually uttered. "Dad knew this note was arriving. He was attempting to gain my economic aid before I got it." The deduction seemed unavoidable, yet still astonishing in its implications. You believe your dad faked your signature on a borrowing request? I know he did, she answered with somber surety. Look at the address on the request. It's his buddy's spot where he's staying, and the contact number listed as mine. That's his mobile. My heart hurt for her, not from my surgical cut, but from seeing this agonizing disclosure. Amanda, I'm so sorry. Don't be, she uttered, her tone steadying. This is actually clarifying. All these years, I thought he was just money reckless. But this is real fraud. He was ready to ruin my borrowing, which I'm working so hard to fix, to resolve his short-term housing issue. She carefully refolded the note, her actions intentional and managed. I need to reach this firm right away to report the fraud. Then I should likely submit a law enforcement report to safeguard myself legally. The logical, systematic reaction astonished me. The Amanda of 6 months before would have been swamped by sentimental chaos, denial, justifications, maybe even accusing me of somehow pitting her against her dad. This measured method to a profoundly hurtful discovery showed how much she'd advanced. Would you like me to assist with any of that? I offered. She pondered this, then agreed. Actually, yes. Could you review the note I composed to the borrowing firm? Ensure it's clear and thorough. Of course. As she headed to her room to start tackling this newest crisis, I stayed on the couch, processing what had just happened. The disclosure of Jack's readiness to commit fraud using his daughter's identity was shocking, but not totally unexpected. It marked an escalation of his typical economic exploitation, but followed the same basic pattern. What was truly remarkable was Amanda's response, the clarity with which she recognized the violation, her refusal to minimize or excuse it, and her immediate focus on practical solutions rather than emotional breakdown. 6 months ago, such a discovery might have devastated her. Today, it seemed to strengthen her resolve to create healthier patterns in her life. My physical heart was healing according to medical expectations. Amanda's metaphorical heart, her emotional core and value system, was undergoing its own reconstruction, perhaps more profound than my surgical repair. Both processes involved pain, but both promised greater strength and function on the other side of recovery. The loan fraud incident marked a turning point in Amanda's relationship with her father. After reporting the forgery to the financial institution and filing a police report, difficult steps she took with remarkable composure, she made the painful decision to sever contact with Jack entirely, at least for a while. It's not about punishment, she explained during one of our evening conversations. It's about protecting my financial security, my emotional health, and my recovery process. Dr. Levine calls it a necessary boundary, not a permanent door slamming. I nodded, understanding the distinction. Unlike Jack's dramatic relationship cutoffs, which he used as weapons when people didn't meet his demands, Amanda's choice came from self-preservation rather than manipulation or revenge. The weeks that followed brought continued healing, both physical and relational. By month 4 of my recovery, Dr. Chin cleared me for normal activities with minor restrictions. I resumed my full tutoring schedule, though I still tired more easily than before surgery. Amanda continued her credit counseling and therapy sessions, making steady progress on both her financial and emotional health. One crisp November evening, as we shared a simple dinner of soup and bread, Amanda broached a topic that had been hovering unspoken between us. I've been looking more seriously at apartments, she said, stirring her soup thoughtfully. The Westbrook complex has a 1-bedroom available next month. It's within my budget, even with the debt repayment plan. Though I'd known this conversation was inevitable, I felt a surprising pang at the prospect of her leaving. These months of cohabitation, despite occasional friction, had given us the opportunity to develop a healthier relationship than we'd had in decades. That's the one near the community college? I asked, recalling her showing me listings weeks earlier. She nodded. The commute to work is manageable and the neighborhood feels safe. It's nothing fancy, but she smiled slightly. I've developed a new appreciation for nothing fancy but functional. It sounds perfect, I told her sincerely. When would you move? That's what I wanted to discuss. She set down her spoon, meeting my eyes directly. My 6-month commitment to help with your recovery will be fulfilled next month. Medically, you're doing well, but I don't want you to think I'm abandoning you if I move out. The concern in her voice touched me deeply. For most of her adult life, Amanda had made decisions with little consideration for their impact on others. This thoughtful approach to a potential transition represented significant growth. You've more than fulfilled your commitment, I assured her. My recovery has progressed remarkably well, largely thanks to your help. You deserve to establish your own independent life again, a healthier one this time. Relief crossed her features, followed by a more complex emotion I couldn't immediately identify. There's something else, she continued. Part of my financial recovery plan involves increasing my income. An opportunity has come up at work, a promotion to senior marketing strategist. It would mean a significant salary increase, which would accelerate my debt repayment. That sounds wonderful, I responded, genuinely pleased for her. You certainly deserve recognition for your professional capabilities. There's a catch, she admitted. It would require some travel. Quarterly trips to regional offices, plus occasional client meetings in other states. Nothing excessive, but I'd be away for a few days every month or so. I finally understood her hesitation. And you're concerned about leaving me alone during those periods? She nodded. I know you're doing well, but the idea of you being here by yourself if something happened. Amanda, I said gently, I managed on my own for years before my surgery. I have friends, neighbors, a medical alert system if needed. You can't structure your entire career around being my safety net. I know that logically, she acknowledged, but I also know that for years I took your support for granted while giving nothing in return. The thought of returning to that one-sided dynamic feels wrong, even if the circumstances are different. Her awareness of our previous unhealthy pattern impressed me. Many people repeat dysfunctional relationship dynamics without ever recognizing them, let alone actively working to change them. What if we approach this mathematically? I suggested, falling back on my preferred framework for problem solving. Let's identify the actual needs and potential solutions rather than working from emotional assumptions. Amanda smiled slightly at my characteristic approach. Okay, Professor Wilson, let's do the math. Together, we analyze the situation objectively. My current health status, good, with normal age-related considerations. Existing support systems, strong community connections. Practical concerns, primarily transportation to occasional medical follow-ups when she would be traveling. So, the real issue isn't daily assistance anymore, Amanda concluded, but having backup for specific situations and emergencies. Exactly. And there are multiple solutions for those specific needs that don't require you to limit your career advancement. She nodded, looking relieved. I can coordinate with Susan or your other friends for transportation when I'm traveling, and we could consider one of those medical alert services with fall detection just for additional security. Those seem like reasonable precautions, I agreed. But I want you to take this promotion without reservation. You've earned it through your professional capabilities, and it represents an important step in your financial recovery. Amanda's expression softened. It's strange. For years, I chased job titles and salary increases to fund a lifestyle I couldn't actually afford. Now, I'm excited about this promotion primarily because it will help me pay down debt faster and eventually rebuild savings. That's a healthier perspective, I observed. Success measured by financial security rather than material acquisition. I learned it from you, she said quietly, though it took me far too long to appreciate the lesson. The conversation shifted to practical details, when she would view the apartment, what furniture she would need, minimal, given her new budgetary constraints. How we would arrange the transition to maintain regular contact without the forced proximity of cohabitation. I'd like to keep our Sunday dinners, she suggested. And maybe I could still help with your garden on weekends. You shouldn't be doing the heavier work for a while yet. I'd like that very much, I replied, touched by her desire to maintain meaningful connection rather than just obligatory check-ins. We cleared the dinner dishes together, a small domestic rhythm we'd established during my recovery. I reflected on the mathematical improbability of our current relationship. If someone had suggested 6 months ago that Amanda would be living with me, helping with my recovery, addressing her financial issues responsibly, and maintaining appropriate boundaries with her father. I would have calculated the probability at nearly zero. Yet here we were, navigating a transition that acknowledged both independence and interdependence, a far healthier equation than the codependent dynamics that had characterized our previous relationship. Later that evening, as I prepared for bed, I found a small package on my nightstand with a note in Amanda's handwriting. A thank you seems inadequate, but it's a start. Love, A. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like a heart, not the stylized Valentine symbol, but an anatomically correct heart with its chambers and valves clearly defined. The enclosed card read, "For the woman who taught me that real strength comes from the heart, both the physical one you've healed and the metaphorical one you've always exemplified. Thank you for giving me the time and space to find mine." I fastened the necklace around my neck, the weight of the silver heart resting against my surgical scar, a poetic juxtaposition of the physical and emotional healing that had occurred these past months. Some mathematical problems have multiple correct solutions. Others require approximations rather than exact answers. The equation of my relationship with Amanda had never been neatly solvable. But we had finally found a balanced expression that honored both sides, not perfect, but approaching a more optimal equilibrium than I had ever dared to hope for during those difficult years of enabling and resentment. On a bright December morning, 6 months after my surgery and precisely 2 weeks since Amanda had moved into her modest Westbrook apartment, I sat at my kitchen table reviewing my finances. The medical bills had finally stopped arriving, insurance claims were settled, and I could now assess the full impact of my cardiac adventure on my financial situation. The numbers were sobering, but not catastrophic. My emergency fund was depleted, and I'd needed to withdraw a small amount from my retirement savings to cover the final bills. The years of subsidizing Amanda's lifestyle had certainly left me more vulnerable than I should have been at 62. But careful budgeting would allow me to rebuild my reserves gradually. My calculator and spreadsheets, tools that had guided me through decades of financial tightrope walking, now showed a path forward. It would take approximately 18 months to replenish my emergency fund if I maintained my current tutoring schedule and continued my frugal lifestyle. Not ideal, but manageable. The doorbell rang, interrupting my calculations. Amanda stood on the porch holding a small potted poinsettia and a folder. Early for Sunday dinner, I observed with a smile, stepping back to let her in. "I had a meeting nearby and thought I'd drop this off," she explained, placing the poinsettia on the entryway table. "Also, I have some news." I led her into the kitchen where my financial papers were still spread across the table. She glanced at them, immediately grasping what I'd been doing. "Year-end accounting," she asked, setting her folder beside my spreadsheets. "Just getting a clear picture of where things stand post-surgery," I confirmed, offering her coffee. She nodded, accepting the cup. "That's actually related to why I'm here." She opened the folder and removed a check, placing it carefully beside my calculator. "My year-end bonus came through yesterday. The check was made out to me for $5,000. I stared at it, then at her. "Amanda, what is this?" "The first significant payment toward what I owe you," she replied calmly. "My bonus was $7,000 before taxes. I kept enough to maintain my emergency fund and put the rest toward my debt to you. We agreed on $100 monthly payments," I reminded her. "This isn't necessary." "The payment plan was a minimum commitment, not a maximum limitation," she countered. The financial counselor advised allocating unexpected income primarily to debt reduction rather than lifestyle expansion. I pushed the check back toward her. "Your credit card debt should take priority. The interest rates are punitive." "Already addressed," she assured me. "I negotiated settlements with 2 of the card companies and have been making accelerated payments on the third. This," she tapped the check, "is separate from that strategy." The methodical approach impressed me, no impulsive financial decisions, but a balanced strategy addressing multiple obligations simultaneously, so different from her previous all-or-nothing approach to money. "Besides," she continued with a small smile, "this isn't just about financial accounting. It's about balancing other equations too." I understood her meaning. The money represented more than financial restitution. It symbolized her recognition of the imbalance that had characterized our relationship for so long. By insisting on repayment, however gradual, she was establishing a healthier dynamic between us, one based on mutual respect rather than unacknowledged dependence. In that case, thank you, I said, accepting the check with the same seriousness with which it was offered. This will help rebuild my emergency fund faster than I'd projected. She nodded, clearly pleased by my straightforward acceptance. How are the calculations looking otherwise? She asked, gesturing toward my spreadsheets. Challenging, but not impossible, I replied honestly. The medical costs were significant, but I'm developing a recovery plan, financial as well as cardiac. Amanda studied my figures with newfound understanding. 6 months ago, she would have glazed over at columns of numbers or made dismissive comments about my obsession with budgeting. Now, she analyzed them thoughtfully, asking relevant questions about my insurance coverage, income projections, and expense categories. You're still tutoring too many hours, she observed, noting my income calculations. Dr. Chin recommended reducing your schedule for at least another 3 months. The math requires a certain income level, I explained. Unless I want to further deplete my retirement savings, which would be short-sighted. She frowned slightly. There must be alternatives. What about online tutoring? Less physically demanding than having students here, potentially more efficient with your time. The suggestion surprised me, not because it wasn't logical, but because it demonstrated a creative problem-solving approach to financial challenges rather than magical thinking or avoidance, another sign of her evolution. I've considered it, I admitted, but many of my students benefit from the in-person interaction, especially those with attention difficulties. A hybrid model, then, she suggested. Keep your most vulnerable students in person. Shift others online and potentially expand your reach beyond local students. The economics could work in your favor, slightly lower rates, but higher volume and less physical strain. Her analysis was sound, applying business principles to my tutoring practice in ways I hadn't fully explored. Teaching had always been my vocation rather than a purely economic activity, but her perspective offered valuable insights. I'll look into it, I promised, genuinely intrigued by the possibilities. I can help set up the technology if you decide to try it, she offered. It's similar to the remote work systems we use at my company. This practical offer of assistance, using her actual skills rather than just financial resources, represented another healthy shift in our relationship. For too long, money had been the primary medium of exchange between us, distorting our connection and reinforcing unhealthy patterns. Our conversation turned to her new apartment and job. The promotion had officially started the previous week, bringing increased responsibilities along with the higher salary. She described her first regional office visit scheduled for January with a mixture of excitement and appropriate concern about the challenges. It's strange, she reflected. 6 months ago, I would have focused entirely on the prestige aspects of this promotion, the title, expense account, business travel. Now I'm thinking about the skill development, the networking opportunities, the long-term career implications. A more balanced perspective, I observed. Exactly. Balance. That's what I've been missing in my finances, in my professional approach, in my relationships. She gestured between us, including this one. We continued talking as morning shifted to afternoon, the conversation flowing naturally between practical matters and deeper reflections. No longer was I the concerned mother offering unheeded advice. Nor was she the defensive daughter rejecting guidance. Instead, we were two adults navigating complex life challenges, each with valuable perspectives to contribute. Eventually, Amanda glanced at her watch. I should go. I'm meeting my landlord to discuss a minor plumbing issue. Very glamorous Sunday activities. Homemaking isn't glamorous, but it's essential, I replied. Something else I tried to teach you that probably sounded like outdated maternal nagging at the time. She laughed. Among many lessons I'm belatedly appreciating. The list is embarrassingly long. As she prepared to leave, I impulsively asked, "Would you like to come for Christmas?" Just a quiet dinner, nothing elaborate. Her expression softened. I'd like that very much. Actually, I was going to ask if I could spend the night Christmas Eve. My apartment will be, well, it's my first holiday alone. And I thought, "You're always welcome," I assured her, touched by the vulnerability of her request. After she left, I returned to my financial calculations, now including her unexpected contribution. The revised projections showed a slightly more optimistic timeline for recovery, still challenging, but less precarious than before. I found myself thinking about Amanda's suggestion regarding online tutoring. The idea held merit beyond just the economic advantages. It represented adaptation rather than sacrifice, finding creative solutions to changed circumstances instead of simply reducing expectations or depleting resources. Perhaps that was the most important lesson we'd both learned through this extended crisis: adaptability as a form of resilience. Financial setbacks, health challenges, relationship difficulties all required adjustment rather than capitulation. 6 months ago, an unexpected health crisis had revealed financial truths long hidden beneath layers of enabling and denial. The initial confrontation had been painful for both of us, exposing patterns of dependency and resentment that had corroded our relationship for years. Yet from that difficult beginning had emerged something I'd almost stopped believing was possible: a healthier relationship based on honesty, appropriate boundaries, and mutual respect. Not perfect, we both still carried emotional patterns that occasionally surfaced in unhelpful ways, but balanced in ways that had previously seemed mathematically impossible. My physical heart was healing according to medical expectations. My financial situation, while strained, had a clear recovery pathway. And my relationship with my daughter had found an equilibrium I'd never dared to hope for during those difficult years. Some equations took longer to solve than others. Some required multiple attempts, revisions, and recalculations before a satisfactory solution emerged. But the fundamental principles remained constant: honesty with the numbers, adaptation to changing variables, and persistence through the problem-solving process. In mathematics and in life, balance was always worth the effort required to achieve it. Thank you very much for listening. Please leave a comment with a rating from 0 to 10. Subscribe to the channel and share this story with a friend.